there is a huge amount of unrecorded human history beneath the ocean surface that we don't know very much about at all.
Atlantis should be somewhere around here, but where? And if it is here, how come we can't see it?
The undersea secrets of the Atlantis has been kept hidden from us for a very long time. In deep down, so many ancient artifacts were found. And these artifacts carries a lots of histories along with it. So, today we will reveal every of Atlantis' secrets. Let's go. Discovery of the possible origins of Atlantis.
Antiquity?
Escúchame, el corte que tiene la estructura es humano.
The city may not necessarily be under the bottom of the sea, but rather under the bottom of this platform.
Scientists believe they may have found the location that inspired the legend of Atlantis, a mountain that sank beneath the sea near the Canary Islands. If their theory is correct, this sunken mountain could be the birthplace of the Atlantis story. The islands are actually situated on a seamount, which is an underwater mountain. This massive formation is about 31 miles wide and boasts 3 inactive volcanoes. It's hard to imagine, but there are even beaches underwater. Leading the research is Luis Soloza, an expert in volcanic activity in the Canary Islands. He and his team think they might have discovered the mythical Atlantis, naming it Mount Los Atlantis, after the famous civilization that Plato claimed sank into the ocean after angering the gods. What's fascinating is how old Los Atlantis is. Scientists estimate that the mountain was originally a group of islands 56 million years ago, during the Eocene period. It rose high above sea level, and the parts that surfaced became tropical islands. For a modern comparison, consider the Hawaiian Islands, which were also formed by volcanic activity. Just like Hawaii, the beaches and palm trees exist because of the volcanoes, which also pose a threat to their survival, a delicate balance of creation and destruction. About 34 million years ago, the volcanoes on Los Atlantis stopped erupting. As a result, the lava solidified, and the mountain began to slowly sink beneath the waves. Remarkably, Los Atlantis is still sinking today. Scientists have discovered ancient beaches just 200 feet below the surface. During the Ice Age, when sea levels were lower, the volcanoes would have stood as islands, similar to how they did 56 million years ago. These islands likely supported diverse ecosystems and could have even been home to an advanced human civilization. With ample land, food, and resources, there would have been plenty of opportunities for a growing society to thrive. But then, disaster struck. At the end of the Ice Age, sea levels began to rise, just as they did 34 million years ago. The beaches and islands of Los Atlantis were reclaimed by the ocean, taking with them whatever life had been flourishing there. If there were prehistoric creatures, they likely went extinct. If a civilization similar to Atlantis existed, they too would have perished. Intriguingly, the sea levels rose around the same time Plato described the sinking of Atlantis, roughly 12,000 years ago. Coincidentally, this period also aligns with when ancient astronomers at Göbekli Tepe recorded a comet impact that may have triggered a global flood. This was also the time when the Bible mentions a flood sent by God to cleanse the world of corruption. This might explain why so many cultures have ancient flood myths, and perhaps it all began off the coast of the Canary Islands. The oceans are boiling. Scientists have made a shocking discovery 13,000 feet below the ocean's surface, a zone filled with dangerously acidic water. This isn't just regular acidity, it's fatal. The extreme pressure and cold temperatures in this area create conditions so hostile to life that the water can dissolve shells and skeletons. If you tried to swim through this acidic zone, your skin would literally melt. Occasionally, marine animals accidentally swim into it, becoming instant skeletons in seconds.
They're starting to look a little scary in the deep seas.
But that's not even the scariest part. What's truly frightening is that this mysterious acidic zone is expanding rapidly. By the year 2100, it could grow to cover half of the world's oceans. Just imagine, half of the ocean could turn into bubbling pits of acid. What kind of world would that be? It would be reminiscent of one of Saturn's moons, or even Venus. Life as we know it could come to an end. Scientists have named this alarming area the carbonate compensation depth. It's important to note that this is different from the ocean acidification occurring at the surface. As oceans absorb carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels,
The burning of fossil fuels has caused levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to rise. This carbon dioxide, or CO2, doesn't just stay in the atmosphere. Roughly 30% of it is absorbed by the ocean.
the upper layers are becoming more acidic. Scientists have been discussing this issue for years, but many didn't realize that a similar process was happening deep in the ocean as well. The two phenomena are likely connected. The increase in carbon dioxide is lowering the ocean's pH, causing deeper areas to become more acidic. To illustrate just how quickly the acidic zone is growing, in some parts of the Atlantic, it has risen 980 feet. If this trend continues, it could take over 51% of the global ocean. While there's no need to panic, it's clear that things are looking increasingly grim in the deep seas. A sunken city beneath China's lake. Beneath the waters of Fuxia Lake in China lies a hidden city, an ancient ruin uncovered in 2006. The size of these ruins is astounding, stretching over millions of square feet. Archaeologists believe this city could be thousands of years old, but its exact history is still a mystery. Could this be the lost capital of an ancient kingdom? Was it submerged by a natural disaster, or is there another story behind it? Access to this site has been limited by Chinese authorities, adding to its intrigue. In 2006, a team of divers and underwater archaeologists was granted permission to explore the lake and investigate its secrets. When they dove into the water, they discovered neatly arranged stones along the lake bed. These stones, clearly shaped by human hands, featured strange images and symbols. As the team explored further, they unearthed more signs of human civilization, structures that revealed the existence of an entire sunken city. After their dive, the team searched through historical records and found a reference to a place called Dad. It was said to be established around 206 BC near Shan Lake, but information about it ended there. By the time the Tang dynasty began over 1,000 years later, all records of Dad had vanished. There are no texts explaining what happened to the city.
Hand-dressed flagstones, roads, buildings, and it's as if he discovered an underwater city.
Only local legends suggest that the city and its inhabitants sank to the bottom of the lake. These legends might hold clues, and the team hopes to connect their findings with the stories. Initially, they thought the submerged city of Yan might have been the capital of the Dion Kingdom over 2,000 years ago, but doubts linger. For one, the city is enormous. Sonar scans reveal that the ruins cover more than 10.8 million square feet, larger than the capital of the ancient Han dynasty. The size of this sunken complex seems impossible to overlook. It's as if the city of Rome had somehow vanished without a trace in history. Things get even more puzzling with the discovery of a submerged pyramid at the bottom of Fukan Lake. Some believe this structure is more advanced than the Egyptian pyramids, not because it's larger, but due to the unique carvings and mystical symbols on its stones. One particular stone features an interesting design, a circle with 7 lines radiating from it resembling the sun, while on the opposite side is a similar circle with 4 lines. This design is exciting for those familiar with ancient Chinese symbolism. Similar sun symbols have been found on bronze drums from China's spring and autumn period, 722 to 481 BC. However, this stone may date back almost 5,000 years, potentially linked to Stone Age cultures in China that may have worshipped the sun. Scientists are working to decode these symbols in hopes of uncovering the city's true age.
Did some kind of advanced civilization exist at one time beneath Fuxian Lake?
If they aren't that old, they could still be around 1,700 years old. Impressive in its own right. Scientists are puzzled. They don't understand the meanings of the symbols or carvings, nor do they know the purpose of the pyramid, or if any lost Chinese rulers are buried beneath it. Nearly 20 years have passed since the initial exploration, yet little new information has emerged. Rumours suggest that China has restricted access to Fushan Lake and halted all archaeological investigations. But why? What secrets are they trying to hide? A giant mammoth discovered in Mississippi. A gigantic mammoth tusk was recently discovered protruding from a stream in Mississippi, and it's hard to express just how enormous it is. It's surprising that no one noticed it sticking out of the muddy water before. The tusk was found by amateur fossil hunter Eddie Templeton, who was on a walk in rural Madison County in early August 2024.
Eddie realized he needed to act quickly because the modern-day elements were not on his side.
With the water levels down, he spotted the tusk near a cliff. This discovery is groundbreaking because it's the first mammoth fossil ever unearthed in the area, making it quite significant. If you ever stumble upon a giant fossil, take a cue from Eddie. Don't just start digging it up. Instead, he contacted the Mississippi State Geological Survey for help. With their expertise, the massive tusk was carefully extracted from the silt and clay of the stream. According to the scientists, the ivory tusk measures 7 feet long and weighs a staggering 600 pounds. That's incredibly heavy for just one tusk. Imagine how massive and strong the mammoth must have been. Its tusk is longer than most people are tall. This tusk belonged to a Columbian mammoth, scientifically known as Mammothus columbi. While these magnificent creatures once roamed Mississippi, their fossils are quite rare. Most fossil finds in the area are from mastodons, which were also gigantic plant eaters but much more adaptable. Mastodons could eat a wide variety of plants, whereas mammoths were picky grazers. During the time of the Columbian mammoth in North America, from 2.6 million to 1100 years ago, they preferred open grasslands. Even though both mammoths and mastodons lived in Mississippi, mammoths had a much more specific habitat, making their remains harder to find, while mastodon bones are relatively common. Interestingly, mammoths arrived in North America much like the first humans, only a bit earlier. They crossed the Bering Land Bridge that connected Siberia to Alaska around 1.5 million years ago. These colossal animals could reach heights of 15 feet at the shoulder and weigh over 10 tons. Shortly after humans migrated to North America via the same land bridge, Columbian mammoths went extinct, and scientists believe this isn't just a coincidence. The last of the mammoths survived in small family herds on Wrangel Island in Russia until about 3,700 years ago. Ancient statue discovered in Lake Wena with remarkable fingerprints. Archaeologists have taken their work to a whole new level, resembling something out of a crime scene investigation. Divers have unearthed a 3,000-year-old statue at the bottom of Lake Wena in Italy, and remarkably, they found fingerprints on it.
Some kind of advanced civilization exist at one time?
But before we dive deeper into this fascinating find, let's rewind to 1991. That's when divers first started to notice something unusual beneath the surface of Lake Wena. They began discovering piles of stones that appeared to be man-made. Soon after, they found wooden poles, ceramic fragments, and other signs of ancient villages. It became clear that humans once inhabited the area beneath the lake, though not literally under it, as the region was flooded around the 9th century BC. Originally, Lake Wena had a much lower water level, with towns of Iron Age humans lining its shores. As the water levels rose, evidence emerged of a civilization adapting to their changing environment. These primitive settlements were made up of huts right by the lake. When flooding became an issue, the villagers started building their homes on stilts to stay above water. Eventually, when conditions worsened, they abandoned their lakefront settlements altogether. The statue discovered at the bottom of the lake was created by a member of this lost civilization. It has remained unfinished since the 9th century BC. Archaeologists believe the clay worker didn't complete their artwork, possibly out of frustration, or it may have been swept away in a flood before they could finish it. What makes this discovery even more incredible is that the clay maker's fingerprints are still visible in the clay. It's not often that researchers find the fingerprints of someone from a prehistoric village, especially imprinted on a piece of art that was never completed. This statue offers a rare glimpse into the lives of those who lived in this ancient community. The Las Vegas of Rome. A team of underwater archaeologists has uncovered a stunning marble floor in the ruins of an ancient holiday city. This beautiful floor is just a glimpse into the fascinating story of Baiae, a sunken city that was once a luxurious getaway for wealthy Romans. For centuries, if you were a rich citizen looking to relax and have some fun, Baiae was the place to be. Historians often refer to it as the Las Vegas of the Roman Empire, a blend of seaside resort and all-inclusive vacation destination. Notable Roman leaders, including Cicero, Hadrian, and Julius Caesar, enjoyed their time in lavish villas there. The city was so opulent that its streets were filled with extravagant homes. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more luxurious place to spend your Roman coins. One of Baiae's biggest attractions was a volcanic hot spring, believed to have magical healing powers. Over the years, however, these hot springs became infamous for their wild and hedonistic activities. Let's just say the Romans had their share of mischief. During its Heyday, Baiae's beaches were packed with revelers, many in various states of drunkenness. The famous philosopher Seneca even warned against visiting Baiae due to its Exgessenweise. But then disaster struck. With the fall of the Roman Empire, Baiae faced increasing attacks from rival armies. By the 8th century AD, it was completely destroyed by invading Muslim forces. The city might have survived into modern times if not for a major volcanic event in the 16th century. Volcanic activity caused the ground beneath Baiae to shift dramatically, resulting in the entire city slipping into the sea. Today, archaeologists are working tirelessly to uncover its treasures. The latest find is the vibrant marble floor I mentioned earlier. This exquisite mosaic, made of marble, shell, glass, and mother of pearl, was likely part of a reception room in a wealthy villa. Just imagine how many wealthy visitors walked across this beautiful floor in ancient times, perhaps even Julius Caesar himself. The legendary London warship. After spending 360 years submerged in England's Thames estuary, a bronze cannon has finally been seen again for the first time since the 1600s. This incredible discovery was made by archaeologist Steve Ellis from historic England, who believes the cannon belonged to a 17th century warship, not just any ship, but the London, a vessel that played a crucial role in England's history. The London was built in 1654 at the Chatham Dockyard during a time of political upheaval in England. The English Civil War had just ended in 1648, and the Anglo-Dutch War had wrapped up earlier that same year. Once the London was ready, it was part of the convoy that brought Charles II back from his exile in the Netherlands in 1660, restoring him to the English throne. While the London was a legendary warship, its life was tragically short. In 1665, a devastating gunpowder accident occurred. The powder magazine ignited, causing a massive explosion. Imagine the chaos of a car crash in a Fast and Furious movie. Bits of the ship sank into the Thames estuary near Southend Pier, and the explosion resulted in a major humanitarian crisis. 300 crew members lost their lives, most of them instantly engulfed in the blast. Fortunately, a few survived. 24 men were thrown clear by the shockwave, and one woman was also saved by the explosion. Since that catastrophic day, the London has rested in two halves on the seabed, its treasures scattered through the silt and sand. The recently discovered cannon is being celebrated as one of the most significant artifacts ever found at the wreck site. This medium-sized demi-cannon can be traced back to its maker, George Brown. It is larger than a culverin but smaller than the 42-pound cannons found on some ships. The cannon would have been placed on the lower gun deck and used to unleash devastating cannonballs on enemy vessels. The lost Byzantine merchant ship. Around 1,500 years ago, a Byzantine merchant ship met a tragic fate off the Sicilian coast while en route to Syracuse. Loaded with a hefty 150 tons of stone, including prefabricated church decorations like columns and capitals, the vessel found itself in treacherous waters. A massive wave crashed over it, sending the ship crashing onto a reef and scattering its precious cargo to the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. This disaster was akin to an Amazon delivery truck crashing and bursting into flames, except far worse, as it involved significant loss and ruined future business contracts for church construction during the Byzantine Empire. For 14 centuries, the sunken stones remained hidden beneath the waves, until 1959, when a fisherman hunting for cuttlefish stumbled upon them. A few years later, German underwater archaeologist Gerard Capitan began to investigate the site. The stones, spread over an area roughly the size of a football field and lying just 25 feet underwater, became accessible even to amateur divers. After years of research, Capitan proposed that the wreckage was part of a state-led building campaign initiated by Emperor Justinian. Though not as famous as Nero or Caligula, Justinian was a pivotal figure in history, often referred to as the last Roman. His reign marked the transition from Rome to the newly established capital of Constantinople. Capitan theorized that the stones were commissioned for constructing a new state-funded church as part of Justinian's broader effort to enhance the empire's architecture. This theory held until recently, when Stanford University archaeologist Justin Leader conducted further research on the shipwreck. Interestingly, Leader disagrees with Capitan's theory, suggesting that the stones were likely not ordered by Justinian, but by merchants engaged in the thriving Byzantine economy. Leader points out that by the time Justinian ascended to power in 527, the Roman Empire had been fragmented, with its western provinces divided among groups like the Vandals and Ostrogoths. The extensive trade network that once supplied materials like marble from across the empire had collapsed. Justinian aimed to reclaim lost territories, with his armies pushing into North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain. His building campaign included reinforcing fortifications and constructing new churches in these reconquered lands, which was a clever strategy to promote Christianity and unite the Byzantine Empire under a common faith. In essence, this shipwreck not only reveals the history of trade and architecture in the Byzantine Empire, but also highlights the complexities of power and faith during a transformative period. Secrets beneath the waves. There could be secret underwater bases hidden around the world that most people don't even know about. Forget Area 51. The real mystery may lie at the bottom of the ocean. Back in 1968, the Stanford Research Institute explored the idea of underwater bases. They published a study titled Feasibility of Manned Underwater Bases, suggesting locations for these bases and how to build them. A fascinating glimpse into 1960s engineering possibilities. Researchers T.G. Warfield and L.R. Parkinson from the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics concluded that constructing ocean floor bases was technically and economically feasible. They even estimated that it would cost around $500 million over 15 years. Interest in the idea didn't disappear. In 1987, a deputy director of engineering and construction for the US Army Corps of Engineers called for the establishment of secret bases protected deep beneath the ocean. So, do these bases exist? Did the US ever act on these plans? In 2014, something strange was discovered off the coast of Malibu, near Point Dume. Satellite images revealed an unusual underwater structure that looked like it could be a base. Local news stations were intrigued, wondering if it was a natural formation, an alien habitat, or a secret US facility. Even a decade later, the mystery of the Malibu structure remains unsolved, and most people have forgotten about it. Now, let's look at what China is doing. In 2016, reports emerged that China had plans to build a space station, not in space, but 10,000 feet underwater in the South China Sea. This manned underwater base was intended to explore valuable minerals, but it could also serve a strategic military purpose. The project was highlighted in China's 5-year economic plan and ranked among the nation's top 100 science and technology priorities. Chinese leader Xi Jinping emphasized the need to control deep-sea technologies to access its hidden treasures. While it's clear that China has ambitious plans for the deep sea, there have been no updates about the underwater base since its announcement nearly a decade ago. Are they secretly moving forward with the project, or has it been shelved? Only time will tell. The Titanic's surprising discovery. Did you know that the average shark can lose up to 40,000 teeth in its lifetime? It's true. This goes for modern sharks and their prehistoric cousins, like everyone's favourite sea monster, the Megalodon. As the greatest predator to ever roam the seas, the Megalodon shed tens of thousands of teeth throughout its life. Because of this, finding a Megalodon tooth isn't particularly rare. They've been discovered in rivers, streams, and sandy beaches around the globe. However, up until now, no fossilised Megalodon tooth had ever been found deep in the ocean, especially not within the wreckage of the Titanic. Forget the famous diamond necklace worn by the Titanic's passengers. The coolest find from the wreck is a necklace made from Megalodon teeth. The story of its discovery is stranger than fiction. Thankfully for beachgoers everywhere, the Megalodon went extinct between 3 and 4 million years ago, but they dominated the oceans for nearly 20 million years before that. Just imagine the sheer number of teeth shed, 40,000 teeth per shark for 20 million years. With estimates suggesting billions of Megalodon teeth littering the ocean floor, you can't just stroll around collecting them unless you're wearing an Iron Man suit. That's why most Megalodon teeth are found in shallow waters or along shorelines. So, how did a Megalodon tooth necklace end up in the Titanic? Ocean Infinity, a deep-water exploration company, conducted the largest digital scan of the Titanic ever. During their investigation, scientists spotted a necklace featuring a prehistoric shark tooth. While it remains unclear who owned the necklace, it must have belonged to one of the Titanic's ill-fated passengers. The underwater scan mapped nearly the entire 3-square-mile debris field at the bottom of the ocean, revealing a chaotic scene where pieces of the ship and personal belongings are scattered as if the vessel had been turned upside down and shaken. This remarkable discovery occurred in May 2023, but as of now, the Megalodon necklace has yet to be recovered from the Titanic's wreckage. Just months later, in late December, Ocean Infinity unearthed another Megalodon tooth, not from the Titanic but from the seabed of the Pacific Ocean, about 1.9 miles deep. This tooth was discovered by a team of deep-sea divers using a remotely operated vehicle, ROV. The single tooth was embedded in the surface of an underwater mountain, akin to finding a shark tooth on a submerged Everest. Scientists have already dated this massive tooth to be 3.5 million years old. Dwarka, the gateway to the heaven. The mythical city of Dwarka has been detailed in legends for at least 9,000 years. It is considered the greatest city in the world of Hinduism, founded by none other than Krishna himself. The name Dwarka translates to gateway to heaven. Both the myths and the Mahabharata, the primary sacred Hindu text, describe the city as a place of wonder, featuring magnificent palaces constructed from pure crystal and silver, adorned with shining emeralds. According to the legends, Dwarka had artificial lakes, extensive road networks, and vast residential areas. However, it's hard to believe that such a city could have existed in India 9,000 years ago, long before the emergence of the Sumerian civilization in Mesopotamia. Interestingly, archaeologists have found the remains of a sunken city off the coast of the modern city of Dwarka. These ruins, located in the Gulf of Cambay, are believed to be around 3,000 to 3,500 years old, still quite ancient. While the ruins themselves have not been directly dated, researchers have dated artifacts like ceramic ware found in the sediment, which date back to around 900 BC. Experts suggest that this city was still a holy site, but it was likely not constructed by an actual Hindu god. Lost town of Mardale. Beneath the waters of the Haweswater Reservoir in England lies the lost village of Mardale, a tiny hamlet that only becomes visible when water levels drop. The village was submerged in the 1930s when the reservoir's water level was artificially raised by about 95 feet to serve Manchester and the surrounding area. The decision to flood Mardale angered the villagers, who were forcibly evicted from their homes. Hundreds were displaced, and many of their houses were blown apart by Royal Engineers who used the structures for demolition practice. Now, most of the time, this picturesque town remains hidden beneath the reservoir's surface. However, when water levels fall below 50%, the ruins of Mardale village emerge. You'd have to look closely to recognise you're gazing upon a lost city. The buildings have long since been destroyed, with only the squat stone foundations remaining. The outlines of these once thriving structures are all that is left to tell the story of this vanished community. What do you think of this ancient discoveries? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.